Who is Grand Admiral Thrawn?
Hi everybody, welcome to my channel and welcome to part 1 of my 5-part Introduction to Thrawn series. My name is Billy Goof and I'm glad you're here. A long time ago, beyond a galaxy far, far away. Most of my information is coming from the Thrawn Ascendancy series with some supplemental material that I learned throughout the years. My first introduction to Thrawn was in the Legend books, Heir to the Empire, the Thrawn trilogy. My second introduction was in Rebels, and my third, but my favorite introduction was these books. So I haven't read the other trilogy just yet, and when I say read, I actually listen to the audiobooks, which I highly recommend because they're like movies in and of itself. But I digress, we're gonna get going. Mithran Nurodo, codename Thrawn, was born as Kivuran Nuru, codename Vuran, on the planet Rentor, in what I guess citizens of the Republic, the former Republic, would call the unknown regions of the galaxy. Well, I guess it wouldn't be the galaxy of the universe, the unknown regions of the universe, or what the Chiss, Thrawn species, call the chaos. Now in part 2, what is Grand Admiral Thrawn? I'm going to be getting into specifically the Chiss as a species and their look on the universe, their look into themselves, who they are, what they believe in. So we'll go ahead and explain what the chaos is in that video. For now, we're just focusing on Thrawn. As I was saying before, Vuran was essentially adopted into the Myth family, thus changing his name to Mithran Nuru. Yeah, to Mithran Nuru. The Myth was one of the 9 ruling families of the Chiss Ascendancy, kind of like the Chiss Empire. It ranged from planet to planet to planet. It wasn't just one planet. For right now, we're going to focus on the fact that Thrawn had a life before he became an officer in the Imperial Navy. In fact, he had a lot of life. Thrawn was, it's complicated. Right now, we'll go with was. Thrawn was a male Chiss officer in the Expansionary Defense Fleet, not to be confused with the Chiss Defense Force. Think National Guard versus Space Force, or even better, NASA with weapons, which essentially it's not better, it's actually really scary. But he has blue skin, a very distinct angular facial structure, and glowing red eyes, which distinguish his species specifically from another species that we were introduced to, or should I say, I was introduced to in the Clone Wars, the Pantorian. And before he was exiled, yes, exiled, Thrawn had a very successful military career. Senior Captain Thrawn of the Chiss Ascendancy's Springhawk, a heavy cruiser, a heavy bruiser, had a few friends and many enemies, unfortunately. The fact being, though, that all of the above had reason to respect Thrawn in one way or another, for one reason or for another. Thrawn's reputation preceded him.
He was capable, brilliant, considered to be a tactical mastermind, loyal, always one step ahead, or even better, a step to the side.
And though some might use this word to describe him, I wouldn't. I don't believe that he was or ever will be considered ruthless.
Even during his time serving as an Imperial officer, Thrawn was special in a way that he tried his best to avoid unnecessary casualties for both civilians and the soldiers aboard his ships or within his fleet. And it's good to frame his way of thinking as he is a Chiss. The Chiss see other alien life forms as little more than intelligent animals, little more than intelligent pets. Thrawn sees them differently. He doesn't see them as socially valuable beings. He sees them more as tools or assets, and their only purpose is for him to use them as pawns, basically, in order to assure the security and the longevity and the perseverance of the Chiss Empire. Essentially, he sees them as tools first, people second. But is that a step up from intelligent pets? Not exactly hero qualities. Thrawn's entire thought process is rooted in the idea that in order to achieve victory in war or in battle on a game board, you need to truly know your opponent. You need to know your opponent as far as their culture, their art, their history, and knowing those sort of aspects of their daily lives, of their people, of their planet, gives you insight as to how to defeat them. So before going into any battle, any altercation, Thrawn studied meticulously his opponent's culture, their art, their philosophy, their way of being, in order to gather more insight and intelligence as to, okay, these are their weak spots, and he knew how to exploit them. He was really good at exploiting weaknesses. But Thrawn wasn't perfect. He had weaknesses of his own. His biggest weakness was his inability to navigate through the political landscape of the Chiss and of really any entity he came into contact with. This was specifically dangerous and ultimately led up to his exile because, as we know, unfortunately, military and politics go hand in hand. And if you don't understand one, you're not going to be successful in the other. And you can fight me on that. I'm not saying that that's like set in stone. If you have an idea about that, comment, message me down below. What specifically got him in trouble at the end of the trilogy, I guess I'm not going to say spoiler alert because you're watching this video, was the fact that the Chiss hold in very high esteem a single law, and that law states that you cannot strike first. In any war, altercation, battle, the Chiss warships are not allowed to conduct preemptive strikes. Now, Thrawn was very savvy, and he knows how to kind of goad the enemy into striking first. And sometimes that just doesn't cut it in a court of law or in a Chiss court of law, unfortunately. So he was exiled. Or so we thought, or so we think. Whether or not the ruling was true, whether or not it was fair, Thrawn was exiled, never to return to his home, never to see his friends again. It was really sad. I stayed up all night crying about it because it really broke my heart, and it's kind of like the beginning of his villain story, you know what I mean? The twist was, at the end of the Ascendancy trilogy, we're privy to a secret conversation, and the secret conversation was about Thrawn's exile. The fact that, yeah, he's not allowed to come back, kind of. He has a mission, right? We're going to pretend, so the rest of the Chiss people, they think you're exiled. The military, we're going to pretend that you're exiled. We're going to drop you off at a planet, and we hope that your friends, the Republic, who you heard about from Anakin Skywalker, during a brief altercation, come and rescue you because we want to study them. We want to see if they're a threat or a friend. And that's Thrawn's whole perspective. It's not, nobody's going to be equal to the Chiss, but who are you in terms of how you can serve the Chiss? Are you a friend or are you an opponent? Friend or foe? That's Thrawn's way of thinking. And then that gets us into the next trilogy, which I think came before Ascendancy, but Thrawn goes on to become Grand Admiral Thrawn, commanding officer of the 7th Fleet, whose flagship was the Imperial I-class Star Destroyer Chimera. And we're going to get into more detail in part 3. Why did Grand Admiral Thrawn join the Galactic Empire's Navy? I don't know why I keep on calling it the Galactic Empire. I guess I can just call it the Imperial Navy. Why did Grand Admiral Thrawn join the Imperial Navy? That's part 3. Next week is part 2. This is part 1. We're kind of doing like a who, what, when, where, why. Friends of Thrawn. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel for more content. Hit the like button. If you have any questions or thoughts or corrections, I'd love to hear your take. I love responding to comments. Thanks again for watching. My name is Billy Goo, and I'll see you next week.